There was once a man who struck crippling fear into the hearts of his enemies, so much so that they used to all tell frightening stories about him, about how many of their comrades that he'd killed, and scariest of all, how none of them had seen him coming. Almost like he was a ghost. And he was a ghost story. And nothing scarier than a ghost story that's actually true. They even gave this man a special name, and while they were telling stories about him around the campfire, they always felt like they were being watched. Because they were being watched. White Death. Simo Hayha was born on the 17th of December 1905 in Finland, and he lived in a village near the Russian border. He was a farmer, a hunter, and a very good skier. He was 17 when he joined the Finnish White Guard voluntary militia, and one of the things that really stood out about him was he was an extremely good marksman, and his home ended up being filled with marksmanship trophies that he won over the years. Once he completed his short stint of military service, Simo was asked if he would like to purchase the rifle that he trained with, which was a bolt-action M2830 variation of the Mosin Nagant. Simo bought the rifle and practiced with it so much that it felt like an extra limb to him. Then came 1939, the start of World War II, and in November of 1939 the Soviets decided to invade Finland in what would be known as the Winter War, and Simo was called back in for military service. Simo was assigned to 6th Company as a sniper, and he was offered a more modern rifle to fight with, but Simo refused and insisted on using his cherished 2830, something that worked out very well for him because due to the extreme cold, the Finns and the Soviets had constant weapon malfunctions, something that Simo never experienced because he was so well versed in the maintenance of his weapon. Despite the Russians having overwhelming numbers, they get absolutely wrecked in the Winter War. I mean, look at these stats. Look at them. That is absolutely atrocious. There were many reasons as to why the Russians performed so badly. For starters, the Russians were still using their standard green uniforms, which means in the snow, they stuck out like a sore thumb. What also didn't help the Russians was the fact that they had almost no experienced military leaders or strategists. Because Stalin purged them all. So this kind of made them easy targets. Simo adopted some very effective tactics to hide his position. He would wear complete head-to-toe white camouflage. He would also pack snow around himself to hide where he was. He would also pack down the snow in front of his rifle so that the muzzle blast wouldn't puff snow into the air. And he would also pack snow into his mouth so that his breath wouldn't mist up in the cold. All of this combined meant that there would be nothing to give away Simo's position. And Simo would sit like this for hours, in temperatures as low as -40, just waiting for a Russian patrol to wander into his sights. He would then start picking them off. And because of all the precautions that he took, they couldn't figure out where he was firing from. Apparently as well, because of the terrain, his gunshot would reverberate and echo all over the place, so they couldn't even use that to figure out where he was firing from, and all they could do was sit there helplessly as they were getting picked off one by one. By an invisible enemy. A ghost. The White Death. And that is what Simo did for the entirety of the war. He would lie in wait, waiting to ambush Russian patrols, or he would take up overwatch positions when he knew a Russian assault was coming, and he just kept racking up the kills. Simo became so effective at killing Russians that the Russians started telling ghost stories about the White Death, and all that was doing was spreading fear through the ranks and completely demoralising the men because they truly were afraid of Simo because he'd killed so many of them, and it got so bad that Moscow sent a team of snipers to the front line with the sole mission of killing Simo. However, Simo killed all of them, so Russia had to send more. Simo was on average killing 5 enemies per day. On his best day he killed 40. And for the whole duration of the Winter War, Simo got 505 confirmed sniper kills. And that was just during the duration of the Winter War. That was 3 months. And as it was during winter, there was fewer daylight hours. And even despite that, he managed to get 505 confirmed sniper kills in the space of 3 months. But the most impressive thing about that is Simo did all of that using only iron sights. Simo just didn't like scopes. He knew that if he used one, he would have to raise his head a few inches higher, which would make him a bigger target. He also knew that the scopes would fog up all the time in the cold, and also the sunlight would reflect off of them and give away his position, which is something that he used to pinpoint other snipers to take them down. So he just didn't use one. Simo Hayha, original no-scoper. Unfortunately, on the 6th of March 1940, one of the snipers sent by Moscow managed to finally get the drop on Simo and hit him in the face with an exploding round. The round hit Simo in the lower left jaw and completely blew away his jawbone and most of his teeth, and he lost consciousness, but fortunately one of his squad mates managed to rescue him and carry him to safety, and his squad mate recalled that half of Simo's face had been blown off. Simo survived and regained consciousness a week later on March the 13th, which is the day the Winter War ended. Simo was then promoted from corporal all the way up to second lieutenant, which at the time was the biggest rank jump in Finnish military history. He was gifted a unique honorary Model 28 rifle, and then he was also given a farm by the Finnish government as thanks for his services. In Simo's recollections of the war, he told the story about one time that he and his men captured a Russian soldier. What they did was blindfolded him and brought him back to a party in a tent, and they all got really drunk and danced together. And apparently the Russian soldier was really sad when he found out he was getting sent back. I don't think the Russian soldier was sad because he was not going to see his new friends again. I think it's because he knew what was going to happen to him when he got sent back. When Simo retired from his military service, he took up dog breeding and continued hunting. He even went hunting with the Finnish president, and he also entered into lots of hunting competitions, and he won them all. Of course he did. During an interview in 1998, when he was asked how he became such a good sniper, he simply replied, "Practice." It did take Simo many years and many plastic surgeries to recover from his wound, but he went on to live a very long life. He was buried in Ruokolahti after he passed away in a war veterans nursing home in 2002 at the age of 95 years old. This guy was a much requested one, and I can definitely see why. He's definitely earned the title of Mad Lad. Thank you for your service.
It's Count Dankula on YouTube. Everybody should subscribe.